we try to make things more complicated than they may need to be. And yoga and essential oils are such a beautiful pairing that it's really simple for us to find ways to integrate the two together. Okay. Okay, so my name, as I said, I'm Erica Tracer. I'm a yoga teacher and a certified health coach. I'm a mom of 2 little boys, Zachary and Benjamin, under the age of 3. And I love to teach women simple ways to be their absolute best selves. So I really believe that we all have the ability within ourselves to connect to our highest selves, to connect to our true selves, who we really are. And that when we live intentional lives, when we take really great care of ourselves, that allows us to kind of clear out all of the gunk, clear out all of the chaos, clear out all of the blocks that we may have, so that we can really connect to a space that flows. And that when we create that space within ourselves and we connect to that space within ourselves, we are allowing those around us, those that we interact with, to more easily do the same. And I think that everyone deserves to feel what that feels like. And I have learned to experience the benefits of that through yoga and through essential oils. And so that's really what we're going to be chatting about this evening. So I'm a yoga teacher. I am a health coach with the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. I'm also an essential oil educator. And I love the way that different holistic modalities can be fused together to really provide healing and a really great approach to allowing us to feel the way that we want to feel. I feel like when it comes to holistic living, it's not this one size fits all, like we just change our diet and everything else falls into place, or we start practicing yoga and everything else is fixed. There's all of these different approaches, and once we kind of make our way into one of them, we become attracted to all of the other ways that we can live a holistic lifestyle, and they all kind of complement each other, and they allow us to kind of lift ourselves up. So I began my yoga journey, my yoga practice, the week that I decided to quit law school. So I was working full-time. I was going to law school part-time in the evenings, and I was overworked. I was super stressed out. I felt desperate and like I was constantly searching for things outside of myself in order to feel whole. And so I made the decision to quit law school. And the very next day, I started a meditation practice. It was not something I had ever even considered before. I didn't know much about meditation, but I really felt called to just sit with my stillness. I went into my spare bedroom, just sat on the floor and shut the door. That was also the week that I went to my first yoga class. For anyone on the call that does already practice yoga, I went to an Ashtanga class, which is really intense and strict. I had no idea. I just walked into this Ashtanga class, which looking back is very funny to me. But I absolutely loved it. I cried the whole drive home. I felt like I had really come home, and it was such a beautiful thing. And that is what kickstarted for myself my journey into holistic living. So fast forward a couple years, I became a yoga teacher. I'm now pregnant with my first baby. And after cleaning up my diet and the way I took care of myself, I still hadn't yet made that leap into taking care of the things in my home. So I started using essential oils when I was pregnant and needed to make homemade cleaners to clean my house so that I could actually clean my home while I was pregnant. And From there, after Zachary was born, I used Digest Zen here and there. I used On Guard sparingly, but I hadn't really dived into essential oils just yet. It wasn't until my second pregnancy, I had already at this point gotten started with doTERRA, was using essential oils in my home, but I hadn't found a way that really spoke to me yet other than taking care of my family, which of course is super important to me. But it wasn't until my second pregnancy I was experiencing lots of anxious feelings. And I knew that I needed something in addition to my yoga practice to help. And that is where I fell in love with Balance. So Balance is a beautiful blend that doTERRA makes. It's a grounding blend. We're definitely going to be chatting about that more in a little bit. But I used that oil every day throughout my entire pregnancy. And that's the thing with holistic options, is that we take all of these different things that work for us and we fuse them together. So I didn't throw out my yoga practice and just start using essential oils. I found a way that they could both work together and really optimize one another. So even though I was meditating and practicing yoga every single day, I was still huffing my Balance blend all day long as well. Okay, so class tonight is not going to be an Essential Oils 101 class, but for anyone on the call that is not yet familiar with doTERRA's essential oils, I do want to just briefly go over that with you so that you have a good understanding of what it is that we are chatting about tonight. So what are essential oils? You see here on the screen, there's a bottle of lavender, another beautiful oil for a yoga and meditation practice. And essential oils, they are aromatic compounds. They're found in the seeds, the bark, the roots, the leaves, and the stems of plants. And they provide and support against environmental and seasonal threats for those plants. And so in turn, when we use those essential oils, we are able to experience a lot of the same benefits that those essential oils provide the plants. When I first got started with essential oils, this is how I thought of it in my yoga mind, which works perfect for tonight's class. But I really see essential oils as similar to the prana of those plants. So in the yoga practice, our prana is our breath, it is our life force. And I believe that essential oils are the life force of plants. And when we use those essential oils for ourselves and in our practice, we are simply magnifying the life force that is already within us. And they do such a fabulous job with that. So doTERRA's oils are certified pure therapeutic grade. This is a quality standard that doTERRA has set for themselves. It goes above and beyond the industry's standard for testing and quality control to make sure that in that bottle of lavender, every last drop is nothing but lavender. doTERRA is obsessed with the purity of their oils because the purity is going to determine the efficacy of the oils. And doTERRA wants oils that are pure and that work well for ourselves and for our families. Another great thing about doTERRA, if you're not familiar, is their co-impact sourcing. So this is where they go into impoverished communities and they reinstill them with jobs and with homes and with schooling. A lot of the times they are going into communities that have families and history of distilling essential oils and working in essential oil industries that may have fallen in the past. And so they're able to give those communities a sense of purpose again because they have this trade that they are wanting to share, and doTERRA is giving them the space to do that. Okay, so why yoga and essential oils? both allow the body, the mind, and the spirit to function optimally. So we all know that essential oils work on a much deeper level in the body than just physically. They can really help us emotionally and spiritually as well. And that's really similar to a yoga or meditation practice, where initially on the outside, we see the physical part of the practice, but there's something going on beneath that as well. And when we pair those two together, it allows us to kind of catapult that to function even more optimally. Okay, so with essential oils, one thing that I do want to note, essential oils in a yoga practice can be more detailed. It can be more complex, and that really depends on where your passion lies and where your interests are. So if you are interested in essential oils and chakra work, chakras are simply energy points in the bodies, then I really encourage you to dive into practicing that on yourself, researching that for yourself. It is a really great way to do some work for you or for your students. If you're a teacher, you can, do that research that you need on the chakra portion of the practice, and then find those essential oils that help to complement that. We're not going to be going into a whole lot of detail tonight on chakras and oils and the way those two pair together, because that could be a whole class in of itself. And then there's also the emotional component of essential oils that works really well with yoga. So every single essential oil, in addition to whatever other properties it may have, also has an emotional benefit. And so when we use oils in our yoga practice, which also helps to balance our emotions, when we think of it that way, we could use almost any oil and pair it with a yoga practice, depending on what types of emotions we are trying to experience for ourselves or evoke in our class or with our students. So there is so much more than we're going to be chatting about tonight. But when it comes to how I approach oils and my practice for myself and for my students, for the vast majority of the time, I come back to my highest intention as a teacher, which is that I always want my students to leave class feeling better than when they started. There is a time and a place for specific workshops and to dive in deeper to conversations and to kind of get into that nitty-gritty about how to practice yoga to open up and support your heart chakra and the oils that support that as well. But for the vast majority of my students and for the vast majority of the times that I step on my own mat, it is simply because I want to feel better when I am done. And so I really gravitate mostly towards the essential oils that are going to help my students do that most easily. And they are simply appreciative of being able to take some time for themselves and to feel better than when they first walked into the door of that class. Okay, so how can we use essential oils in a yoga practice? We can use them aromatically. So this is when we are breathing in our oils. It's when we are smelling them. This can be from a diffuser, either in your room at home or in your classroom. If you have not seen a diffuser yet, I have one going right here. Just a diffuser, you add some water to it, a few drops of your essential oil. It does a really great job of dispersing that essential oil into the air so that either yourself, if you're practicing near your diffuser, or in a classroom, every student that's in the class can continue to breathe in those essential oils throughout the class. Another great thing is to self-diffuse. So I love to do this at home when I'm practicing by myself by taking a drop of oil, and I will just put it in my palm, if a drop wants to come out. And then I will rub my palms together. And then just go ahead and breathe it in. That works really nicely. I'll rub whatever's left on my chest and my neck. This is something that you can also do in a class as well. So you could self-diffuse an oil for yourself if you're a student, you're going to a class and you need a particular oil before the class starts. You could do this with your students as well, where you pass around a bottle of oil, either at the beginning of class or at a specific point during class, where the students go ahead and self-diffuse. That works really, really nicely, either to help immediately bring a sense of calm, open up the respiratory system, whatever it is that you need from your practice at that point. You can also use essential oils topically for yoga and meditation. So this could be the bottoms of the feet, which are going to help promote those grounding feelings great at the end of class. The inner wrists is also a really nice place to use oils topically. I do this for myself in my daily oil practice because I love to wear my essential oils like perfume for emotional support. But doing this with your students can be really great as well, or yourself in a practice where you're just going to, similar to what I just did with my palm, place an oil the inside of the wrist and then go ahead and rub that together. They can breathe it in if that's what you want your students to do. And then what I really like about this is that at the start of class, if you do this at the start or at the end, you have an opportunity to bring your palms to the center of your heart, connect there, and then bring your thumbs up to your third eye. And voila, your wrists are right in front of your nose, and your students or yourself, you can breathe that oil in. And I think it's such a great pairing, because that's usually a moment in our class where we're really connecting to ourselves and to our intentions, and breathing in the oil that way can help to facilitate that further as well. You can also apply oils topically to the chest, especially for respiratory support and opening up the airways, beneath the ears, so just right below the ear, and the back of the neck. It's pretty hard to do this, I think, when you're teaching a yoga class or when you're participating in a yoga class and you're using essential oils, or even at home, but you always want to make sure that yourself or your students are smelling their oils. When we are using essential oils in yoga, it almost always is for some sort of an emotional component, and we want to make sure that they're really getting those benefits by breathing the oils in. Okay, so here are some of the oils that we are going to be chatting about this evening: frankincense, lavender, serenity, balance, patchouli, breathe, aroma touch, sandalwood, peace, console, forgive, and deep blue rub. Okay, so the first oil that we're going to chat about here is frankincense. Okay, so frankincense is a spiritual oil that helps us connect to our highest selves. So this oil is really great for not only our yoga portion of a practice, but also for meditation at the end for shavasana. With an oil like frankincense, it's definitely one that I most often will use for my home practice, for my personal practice. On rare occasion do I use it in a class because it's frankincense, but sometimes I'll put a drop or two in the diffuser so that I allow my students to experience that as well. It's said that frankincense connects us to our crown chakra, so it's a beautiful oil to help with that. It helps to promote relaxation and peace. I love to use this at home by self-diffusing it and rubbing it along the back of my neck and my chest, so that as I continue to move through my meditation or my practice, I am able to just continue to breathe that in. The next oil I have here is lavender. So as I mentioned, lavender is such a beautiful oil for a yoga practice because it's calming for tension, stress relief, anxious feelings, all of the things that our students or that you want to feel at the end of a yoga class. There is a reason that lavender is so amazing. And so that's okay. Sometimes I feel like this is one of those oils where we feel like we want to overcomplicate it. Like, oh, I should use this crazy oil for my yoga class. But our students really appreciate lavender. I know I really appreciate lavender during a yoga class or when I'm practicing at home because it evokes those feelings that I want to feel as I move throughout my practice. Lavender is also really great for opening the heart chakra and for releasing any anger. So if that is something you are working on personally or something that you are working on with your students or a theme of a class, lavender can be really helpful for that, especially if you apply it topically to the chest. This is one of my go-to yoga oils for either putting it in the diffuser. It is really nice to kind of mix it with another oil or two for my students to smell. It's also one of my favorite oils to have on me while I am teaching a class. So I'm a very hands-on teacher. I like to have a little bit of fractionated coconut oil and essential oil on my hands as I am providing hands-on assist throughout my entire classes. I think that it just provides a really comforting and nice touch for my students when I am approaching them and giving them a gentle assist that they can smell that essential oil and then some is left on their skin. They can continue to breathe and experience that as well. Okay, the beloved balance. This is another one of my absolute favorite oils for a yoga practice because yoga is so grounding and balance works so beautifully at complementing that. So the balance blend is made of spruce, howood, frankincense, blue tansy, and blue chamomile. And then it helps to promote feelings of tranquility and ease anxious feelings. This is an oil that I occasionally will diffuse, but I know my students really enjoy self-diffusing this or at the beginning of class, or another great thing to do with balance towards the end of a yoga class when you are getting ready to come into those more restorative poses, so possibly reclined cobbler's pose or legs up the wall or before Shavasana, is to pass around a bottle of balance, let every student take a drop or two, and give themselves a little foot rub. What I will often do with them is self-diffuse the oil first. So again, they're getting that opportunity to really smell the oil and experience the benefits that way. But then they are able to just give themselves a delicious little foot rub and then lie back into whichever restorative pose they're needing. It just helps to, for restorative postures, whenever you're lying on the ground, that in itself is grounding. And so using balance in those postures is just going to help magnify that. Another one of my favorites is Serenity. So Serenity was just updated with cedarwood and vetiver, and I think just those two. So it's now a restful blend as opposed to a calming blend, but I think that Serenity can still be really helpful for our students or for ourselves in a yoga class when we need ourselves or our students to release that stress. This is another oil similar to lavender that I love to have on my hands as I am providing hands-on assist. It's really lovely in the diffuser for an evening yoga practice. So if you like to practice yoga at home before you go to bed, if that helps you ease into sleep more easily, then having Serenity in the diffuser is definitely the way to go. And same thing for evening yoga classes when we are trying to provide some more calm and rest for our students. Serenity can work really well for that. It has lavender, cedarwood, howood, ylang ylang, marjoram, Roman chamomile, vetiver, vanilla bean, absolute, and Hawaiian sandalwood. Because it is so calming, working with a yin yoga practice or restorative yoga practice can be really nice as well, because it's just helping to continue to provide those feelings of rest. Okay, the next oil is patchouli. Now, patchouli is kind of a love-hate oil, so it's not what I use entirely often in classes, but patchouli to me just smells like yoga. It just reminds me of the incense being burned in class. It's very grounding, so similar to balance, can be a beautiful oil to be used in those more grounding, restorative evening classes. Can be used self-diffused or with your students or with yourself at the end of a class or in a whole class if it is restorative and grounding. It helps with anxious feelings. So if you are exploring yoga for that purpose, then using an oil like patchouli can be really helpful for that, because it is such a strong scent. Now, I love it. I do try to make sure that when I diffuse it, I only use a drop, maybe two, and I mix some other essential oils in it, like lavender, to help balance out that scent. Patchouli is another oil similar to balance that you could rub on the bottoms of your feet to help with those grounding feelings. Okay, so the next oil is breathe. So breathing is an integral part of our yoga practice. To me, it's one of the most important things, whether you are moving through a really fast power yoga class, an Ashtanga class, a yin yoga class, a meditation. It's all about the breath. That is what is slowing down our nervous system. It is what is allowing us to reconnect to ourselves. And so a lot of times ourselves and our students need help breathing. They need help getting to a place where that breath feels easy and feels comfortable. So this oil blend of laurel leaf, eucalyptus, peppermint, melaleuca, lemon, ravensara, and cardamom can be a beautiful way to do that. This is one that I will use for my students at the beginning of a class. So I may pass the bottle around and have everyone self-diffuse. That way, if anyone's having anything that needs opened, so that they can then breathe easy throughout our class, we get that right out of the way at the beginning. It also helps to really dive deep into a breathing practice right from the start of class. So just having them self-diffuse, maybe rub whatever's left on the chest. This is something that I will do in my home practice when I'm just feeling overly anxious and like I am having a difficult time connecting to my breath. Applying breathe to the chest is a great way to start that as well. On occasion, I will have breathe on my hands at the very start of class. I know every teacher teaches differently, but for myself, at some portion at the start of class, after we've grounded ourselves and done some breathing, my students are either in a forward fold or downward facing dog. And either of those poses is a perfect opportunity for me to provide a gentle massaging assist on the back of the neck. And doing that with an oil like Breathe is going to then allow them right at the beginning of class to open up in those airways if that's what they need. Okay, next up is Aroma Touch. This is another one of my absolute favorite oils. It has cypress, peppermint, marjoram, basil, grapefruit, and lavender. Aroma Touch is a massage blend, but it works so well for a yoga practice and in a yoga class, especially at the end, because it provides tension relief. It is relaxing. It's very cooling on the skin, which is why I love to use it towards the end of a class when the students are all sweaty. And it also has cypress in it, which really helps to facilitate flow and allow that natural release that so many of us are needing, and especially at the end of a yoga class. This is the oil that I use most often. Second up would be Serenity, to give my students a neck massage, a Shavasana assist at the end of class, because it's providing all of those things that they need at the end. But I love that addition of cypress in there too, as they lay in Shavasana and everything else is releasing. That essential oil is helping to facilitate that as well. Okay, so next up is sandalwood. Sandalwood is another oil that is grounding. It's also uplifting. It is a typical yoga oil in my book. And it can support each component of our practice. So because it's so grounding and it's also uplifting, it kind of goes through that whole bell curve that we can experience throughout a yoga class. It goes really nicely with lavender and patchouli. Come on. To frankincense. It offers a lot of great support in connecting to our highest selves. And so I love it for that purpose, especially for meditation and allowing myself to breathe it in. So similar to frankincense, also, sandalwood is an oil that I don't use very often in a class. It's an oil that I love to keep for myself and use in my home. Sometimes I will put a drop or two of sandalwood in a blend of other oils in the diffuser so that my students can still experience the benefits that way. But it's not one that we're often or ever, passing around for everyone to self-diffuse. Okay, so I'm going to touch on a couple of doTERRA's new aromatherapy oils. They now come in this lovely touch roller, but with these emotional aromatherapy oils, I'm not going to talk about all of them, but do know that every oil has an emotional benefit that can in some way help our practice if that is the emotion we are trying to evoke from practicing yoga. So these are the ones that I think come up most often. So this first blend is Forgive. It promotes contentment, relief, and patience. It counteracts negative emotions of anger and guilt. It has spruce, bergamot, juniper berry, myrrh, arbor vitae, nootka, thyme, and citronella. And so this is a great pose when I think of this. When I think of this oil, the pose that comes to mind is half pigeon pose. I just think of a posture where we are folding forward and opening our hips, and we are totally releasing and letting go. And this blend is doing the same thing aromatically. And so it can pair really well if you are working on those things within yourselves and in yourself and focusing on those types of poses for yourself, or if you're theming a class that is working on forgiveness. I think that's a common theme in yoga classes, even if we're not ever saying that word or approaching it that way. Okay, the next one is Peace. Promotes peace, reassurance, and contentment, counteracts anxious and fearful feelings. So again, these are a lot of emotions that are coming up in a yoga practice or that need to be released. Vetiver, lavender, ylang ylang, frankincense, clary sage, marjoram, labdanum, and spearmint. Again, a lot of those yoga oils in a really beautiful blend. This is another one that I like to use in the diffuser, especially for those calming, restorative classes. But even an oil like this can be used in a vinyasa class that's building a little more heat, because we still want our students to experience those feelings at the end of class. And then the last oil is Console. So this is a comforting blend. It promotes feelings of comfort and hope, counteracts negative emotions of grief, sadness, and hopelessness. More of those lovely yoga oils. So frankincense, patchouli, ylang ylang, labdanum, amyris, sandalwood, rose, and osmanthus. So what I love about using Console is that a lot of times for ourselves and for our students, when we are moving our bodies and moving our breath in a yoga practice, things come up. They come up all of the time. We feel something energetically shift in our body, and we feel this surge of emotions. And, you know, we don't always know when that's going to happen. And so an oil like Console in class, whether that just simply be on hand if someone needs it, or it's being diffused because the poses that we're going to be working on for ourselves or in our class, we know are going could be triggers or opening up the body in a new way. Console can be a really great blend for that. And then the last one that I have here is Deep Blue Rub. So Deep Blue Rub is an oil. I go for the rub, but there's an oil form as well that you could use with fractionated coconut oil. I love to use this at the start of class. So I mentioned a few slides back, breathe at the start of class. And not the very start of class, I should specify. The start of class where my students are now moving and I'm doing hands-on assists, where I will, similar to breathe, but this is what I do 95% of the time, I will have Deep Blue Rub on my hands. And that is the oil that I use as I initially approach my students to offer some hands-on assists, because it has that cooling effect, but it helps to relieve the discomfort and tension that they may be experiencing. And a lot of people come into a yoga class holding on to those emotions physically in the body, and Deep Blue Rub can allow the physical body to calm and to release, so that as they move throughout the practice, those emotions can release themselves as well. Okay. So getting started with essential oils, getting started with doTERRA. The best way to really implement these essential oils into your yoga practice and into your lifestyle is through a wholesale membership. So a wholesale membership with doTERRA allows you 25% off the retail cost of the oils for a full year. You also receive access to the education, resources, support, and community that myself and my team can provide. A wholesale membership is $35, and that's for your whole year of wholesale pricing. But if you do get started with a kit, it's going to waive that $35 fee. So here are a few of the starter kits that work really well for a yoga practice, either for yourself or if you are using essential oils for you and your students. Both of these work really well. So the first is the oil sharing kit. This is a newer kit that doTERRA just came out with. It's really great for a yoga teacher because you're receiving multiple bottles of a lot of the oils that we chatted about tonight, which means that not only do you have the essential oils that you need for your own practice, but you have access to the essential oils to use on your students, to share with your students. You are receiving either 2 or 3 bottles of Breathe, Aroma Touch, Balance, Wild Orange, which is a really happy, uplifting, but still calming oil. Serenity, 2 bottles of frankincense, which is pretty awesome. Lavender, peppermint, oregano, melaleuca, 3 bottles of the Deep Blue, and you're also getting some sample drams and things like that so that you can share those experiences with your students as well. The oil sharing kit is $800. And then the next kit that we have here is the Natural Solutions kit. So what I find most exciting about the Natural Solutions kit is that not only does it include so many of the essential oils to be used with your yoga and meditation practice. But I know for myself that, once you get hooked on yoga and that feeling that it provides, you start searching for all of these different things and different aspects of your life that you want to evoke that feeling. You start to clean everything else out as well. And so the Natural Solutions Kit not only has the oils to help support your practice, but a lot of the lifestyle products that doTERRA provides that are super clean and really great for you, so that you can clean out anything else that you need to in your home. So lavender, peppermint, which can be used like the Breathe blend, On Guard, which is doTERRA's protective blend, again, frankincense, Balance, Wild Orange, Aroma Touch, Serenity, Breathe, a lot of those really great oils. But then you're also getting doTERRA's toothpaste, a diffuser, fractionated coconut oil, hand wash, doTERRA's Lifelong Vitality vitamins, which are such an amazing way to support your body. So that's the Natural Solutions Kit. It is $550. I also created for you this evening a yoga kit. So just a kit with a lot of the oils that we chatted about this evening. And so this kit would include lavender, Balance, Breathe, Aroma Touch, Peace, Console, Forgive, and the Deep Blue Rub. So not every single oil that we chatted about tonight, but a great majority of them. It's $236. And again, that would include your membership for a full year for the wholesale cost of your oils. And then the last kit I want to touch on here is the Aroma Touch Diffused Kit. This is another new kit that made me oh so happy, because Aroma Touch the Aroma Touch kit is a kit for massage, but all of those oils in there can be really, really great for your yoga practice. So this comes with 5 bottles, so smaller size bottles of Balance, lavender, peppermint, deep blue oil, wild orange, and On Guard, fractionated coconut oil, and then also a diffuser, so that you can not only use those oils topically, but you can use them aromatically for yourself and in your classes as well. Okay, so thank you guys so much for joining me this evening. I so appreciate it. And I really want you to take the time to thank yourself as well for coming out to learn something new, for making some time for yourself. I know that's something that we all crave and need more of. And so if your heart is really telling you that now is the time for you to get started with essential oils, I would love to walk with you on that journey. If you are ready to get started, you can head to my website here, mydoterra.com/Elite Oils LLC. Click on Join and Save, and it'll walk you through the prompts to get started with the kit of your choice. I am also we're going to do a quick Q&A, and then I'm going to be available via email for the next 30 minutes. ericatracer@gmail.com. So I'll be available there to immediately answer any of the questions that you have about which oils or which kit may best serve you or serve your students, so that you can really get started on your journey with the oils that you feel as though you need. You can find me over on Instagram, just my name, @EricaTracer. I am going to be starting a new series next week on Instagram all about essential oils and chakras. So each week moving through a different chakra and all of the meditations and postures and essential oils that can support each of those. So thank you guys again for joining in. If anyone has any questions, you are more than welcome to put it in the chat, or you can go ahead and unmute yourself. I would love to be able to help you with those and get some answers. Okay, no questions? Okay, that's a great question, Katie. So Katie is asking in the chat about teaching in a hot room. I do not teach in a hot room. And yes, if you are practicing hot yoga or you are teaching hot yoga, that definitely is going to make a difference in the oils that you would use and the way that you would use them, because you want to make sure that, you know, applying Deep Blue rub to the neck in a forward fold where their sweat may be dripping down into their eyes may not be the best choice. So I think for any yoga practice that is in a hot room, really sticking to either passing the bottle around in the class and letting the students self-diffuse, having a diffuser going in the class, or implementing the oils in some way towards the end of class where the students are either able to apply them to the wrists and breathe them in that way, or rubbing them on the feet, something where they're staying kind of away from the face and probably the neck as well, because I know in a hot class, I used to practice hot yoga for several years, and I know how it just gets everywhere. Good question.
Hi, Erica.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Katie. I'm actually trying to introduce the oils to, I'm not a teacher, but I've been practicing for about 10 years now. I'm trying to introduce the oils to my Baptiste yoga studio. So it is, hot yoga. There, no experience in the studio whatsoever. The owners are open to it. I'm just trying to figure out how to go about it. I don't want to like overwhelm anybody, but I want people to be open to it. So I figured I would just get your viewpoint on it.
Yeah. So when I'm talking to a studio or when I'm talking to one of my wellness advocates about approaching a studio, I usually equip them with the same oils that I chatted about tonight, because when you're dealing with either a yoga teacher or a studio owner, they want things to be really simple, so that they don't feel as though they have to figure it out. They want to feel like you're presenting something to them that's already figured out. So just having like a diffuser maybe that they could use for a week to just get an experience of what that's like, or have a handful of oils that you're either talking to them about or they're able to use for a short while. But the fewer options that you're able to give them initially, I think is what works best, because whoever needs to make that ultimate decision at the studio is most likely someone higher up that has a million other decisions that they're making. And so when they see that that's something that can work really simply, I think that they're most often more likely to say yes.
Okay, thank you. That helps.
You're welcome. Okay, that's another really great question, is about anyone having an allergic reaction to applying the oils. So I have not had that experience in a yoga class that I taught. When I was, this is like 5 or 6 years ago, I did have a yoga teacher use essential oils in a class, and someone did have a reaction in that class. So I think you do really want to be cautious. And I think it also depends on the type of studio where you teach and the type of class that you're teaching. So if you have a class where if you have a large class and you have lots of different students that come in and out very often, and you're not able to personally speak to each one of those students every class, then I think it's even more important to take a really cautious approach to the oils that you're using. If you're teaching a smaller class, or you have the same students that come most regularly, or you are able to really connect with them before class, then you have a little more leeway because you know who it is that you're dealing with, so that you know which oils they may be more sensitive to. But I do think, Katie, that if there are, like if you were doing something like a workshop, then you're able to spend that time talking about each individual oil and kind of going over that. But for a regular class, you don't have the time to do that. And so trying to stick to the oils that can be used most simply typically works best. So no, you're totally fine. Yes, so I will let them use the diffuser. I've done this for yoga studios. I've done this for a chiropractic office as well, where you are letting them kind of test it out to see if they like it. Sometimes that works best because they want to be able to experience the essential oils before they are going to jump on in. The great thing also about the diffuser is that it's so incredibly simple. So you can just drop off a diffuser and say, here's this diffuser. All you have to do is fill the water to this hole. Here is a bottle of lavender and a bottle of balance. You only need to put in 2 drops of each, and everyone in your class can experience the benefits of those oils without them having to worry about when do I pass a bottle around? How do I apply this to them topically? How do I get a carrier oil on my hands? Diffusers work really well that way. And then giving them that amount of time to test it out to see if they like it can work really well. You're welcome. All right, so does anyone else have any questions? Okay, well, thank you guys so much. You can definitely email me if you have any questions as well. If you had anyone that was trying to get on the call, I know there was some mass confusion about the new link. I'm going to be sending everyone a copy of the recording as well, so that you will have access to that too. All right, you guys, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and you guys have a great rest of your evening. Bye, guys.